Guys, we're going live now. Bismillah, alhamdulillah. Wa sallallahu wa sallama ala nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Pardon me one moment, please. This is a Q&A on haram relationships. Pull up the questions now. We're going to let a couple people come on, inshallah. At least a couple people. In the corner over here on the shelf in the dark. What up? We got this Q&A going on. Pull up a chair. Yeah, pull up a chair. Move up a little bit in that section.
Oh yeah, this is the questions.
Yeah, I got some here too.
You guys sent me some.
Yep.
The blue and white. The one that you played with earlier? Yeah. They took it. Yeah. They took it.
Firdaus, did you find it?
Your friend.
Did you find it?
No.
Which one are you looking for?
The one I gave you.
The black and white one or the other one?
The blue and white.
Oh, it's right there. Let me show you.
That shit's the volleyball.
I was like, I hope I can put this up. Those crayons be like, no shit. Pretty dose. Pretty dose, pretty nice. Pretty dose.
طيب. We're going to begin then. Matter of fact, is there a link to this? Do we have a link to this?
On the Zoom?
No, this is Facebook.
Did you know it's good?
We can access the link.
No, I just got the message saying it was on Facebook. And that was from the man himself.
So much light now. Everywhere is so glowing.
Yeah.
طيب, this Q&A will be on haram relationships in al-Islam. Of course, not haram relationships in al-Islam as if al-Islam condones haram relationships, but we'll get the Islamic perspective on 21st century haram relationships and the unfortunate epidemic of extramarital relationships online. In fact, as some claim, I've heard this from some Imams at least, that the problem of the social media relationships are even more detrimental than the physical ones these days. And they claim that, I guess because, and this is what they explained to me, but they proclaim that because people are literally living online. And they're living online. They're experiencing online. They are trading love and affection online. They're sharing pictures online. Some people are even going as far as having some type of variations of sexual relationships or sexual relations online. Commitments and promises. All types of stuff. People are married doing this stuff. So, typically married folks, it's a little more difficult for married folks to do something outside of their marriage in person. right? It's a little more difficult because, everybody's going to see you. People know you're married to so-and-so. But online, you can get away with it. You can have a whole bunch of relationships online with multiple partners. And it can be all under wraps. And you got the Snapchat these days that erase the messages, and you have, the encrypted messaging on Telegram and WhatsApp and what have you. So people are really going to town with this. People are having a ball with these different type of haram relationships, especially online today. So that makes it extremely dangerous, to say the least. Question number 1. Why does being in a relationship, dating, seem appealing in our current society? What are the harms that come from the dating around notion? So, the dating issue, where typically you do this type of fall in love thing, you're mixing. Dating starts with the free mixing of the genders, which is the free mixing, al-ikhtilatu, is prohibited in Islam. That free mixing and that leisure mixing is not allowed. Of course, supervised mixing or necessary mixing is okay, but that is kind of given as a concession or dealt with or what have you. However, the free mixing of the opposite genders is prohibited in Islam, and it should be to a minimum. Of course, you gotta go to the supermarket, you have to go to you have to go to different places, and you're gonna run into opposite gender. Doesn't mean you act really like weird or stuck up or anything like that. It's just it's dangerous. It's a dangerous thing. So, and the intermingling online is even more prevalent than people intermingle. So people won't intermingle with the opposite gender in person, but online they are free. In fact, people quite often are different people online than they are in the present. They're more confident because they're behind a keyboard. You ever heard of keyboard warriors and stuff like that? Keyboard trolls. People got so much to say behind the keyboard. They can say this and say that, but you meet them in person, they don't got nothing to say. They're chumps, as we say. They're punks. But online, they're the keyboard warriors. So that same way goes for intermingling, where people are intermingling on groups, whether it be WhatsApp or Facebook, or even now you have this new thing, the Clubhouse deal. So the intermingling, this is not what's the intermingling about. It shouldn't be there. And you would, of course, assume that Muslims who are on a group would be mindful of Allah, that they would have some type of taqwa, that they would have some reminders. So you might even give a concession for some people with the idea that they are doing halal things. But then you come to find out that, unfortunately, these people, many Muslims, are pursuing married people. That means a Muslim man is he's married and he's pursuing someone else's wife on social media. Or a Muslim woman is married and she's married and pursuing someone else's husband. And promises and relationship and all of and feelings and in love and every night or what have you, and emojis, and it's amazing. It's amazing that Muslims would do such things. And you would expect that Muslims wouldn't do those type of things. You would expect that, okay, if Muslims are in a group, then they're going to remind each other about Allah. They're going to be some benefit. But no, it turns out to be the opposite. People are getting on these groups and using Islam to get on these groups and have that initial comfort and that initial contact, and then they're going berserk. Which is, it's absurd. It's absurd to even think about it, that this is happening, but that's a reality. So the relationship, this dating culture comes from intermingling. Number 1. It is appealing in our society, and it has always been appealing. People have always been attracted to the opposite gender, right? It has always been appealing, but we've made a culture of it in the West in particular, in some places in the East as well. And the notion is, get to know somebody, fall in love, they say. We've grown up on Disney and other things like that. Fall in love, get your knight in shining armor, get the woman, the damsel in distress, and what have you, and fall in love. Sweep her off her feet, they say. And the harms of it are the conceit, the superficiality. People are superficial. People are all about looks. They're all about what they have, their material wealth. They're all about status and fame and all of these types of things. It becomes very superficial. You don't find people trying to date righteous people. Because a righteous person wouldn't go pursue a righteous woman through dating. A righteous person would pursue a righteous woman through marriage. So dating is a means of people being wicked with one another, people being sinful with one another. You know, the glances, and all of you have gone to public school for the most part. You know, back in the day, you know, I remember second grade, do you like me with crayon? We wasn't writing it. I mean, of course, we could write with pencil and so forth, but they didn't give us no pens. So we had the crayon. Do you like me? Do you have a checkbox? Yes or no? And then, you know, that was the initial stages of dating, you know, coming up in the West, in this society. So we find that, unfortunately, what comes from out of dating, lust and fornication typically comes at the end of it. Babies come after that. And then people turn around and get married. So the American culture is kind of backwards, where spend all of this time, all of this investment, all of this loose commitment. It's a commitment, but not quite. Because the true commitment, even culturally in America, is through marriage. That's a true commitment. But this is loose commitment where you say, well, that's my girl and that's my guy. And you date, and if one of you cheats on the other, then it's a big deal, like, oh, you've cheated on me, but neither one of you really made the commitment of marriage to begin with, so you're fornicating anyway. So you know, then this culture of entitlement through dating. You're dating, you're not married. I mean, so what is this entitlement that people have these days? Let me go back here. But of course you shouldn't be dating in the first place, but I'm just saying that it's kind of ironic that people who are dating and they should be married then feel territorial over the person that they're dating, when that's not a true commitment. That is, unfortunately, a made up, a fictitious and superficial relationship. And yes, people fall in love, or fall in lust, I should say, and then they assume that lust is love. And it's just detrimental. Children are born out of wedlock. Children are born children as results of fornication. And the lineages are severed, because when you have a child out of wedlock, that child is not referred to the father. So the lineage, that means the lineage of this person is cut. You can only maintain a lineage through marriage. So you have all of this issue of now street children that are born in the street, children that are given to the street, raised in public schools, raised on government assistance, and they are more susceptible to crime than children that come from structured homes. Of course, you have the structured home children as well that become criminals. But for the most part, it's a norm, it's a given that these children that are coming from relationships, they're coming from parents who were in a relationship and not married and not structured, then they become products of the street, products of the environment, and the statistics show that they are most susceptible to crime than those who are not. In fact, out of all of the children that I grew up with, I only know a few that knew their dads. I only know a few that knew their fathers. And I knew my father, but he was killed. So most people either didn't know their father, or their father was murdered, or their father was in jail. And I didn't know anybody who had a father-son relationship. I knew about, I want to say one or two people, maybe, that I knew that they knew their fathers and had a relationship with their father, and their father wasn't in jail. But they become results they become statistics due to this structure of dating and extramarital intercourse, premarital intercourse, and fornication, and what have you, and they become it's more susceptible to crime. They fill up the jails, and all of these things happen from this dating culture, and more things happen, of course. The spread of AIDS and HIV, the uncontrolled desire for sex. So then you have the sex trafficking that comes out of that, which statistics show that slavery is more now than it has ever been before. So when you see that missing child picture, that is typically children that are sold into sex trafficking and what have you. So all of these things come from this hypersexualized culture. And dating is a byproduct, and dating kind of fuels it as well. Number 2. How can we prevent ourselves from falling into a haram relationship? What leads to haram relationships? Well, how do you prevent yourself from falling into haram relationships? You can get married. Prophet Muhammad said, يا معشر الشباب من استطاع منكم الباءة فليتزوج فإنه أغض للبصر وأحصن للفرج ومن لم يستطع فعليه بالصوم فإنه له وجاء. Prophet Muhammad said, "O young people, whoever is able amongst you to get married, then get married. Because it will be more effective in helping you to lower your gaze and more effective in helping you to protect your private part. And whoever is not able to do so, then they should fast, because that will be a temporary solution for them, like a wija, a protection or screen for them." So Prophet Muhammad said, get married. That's how you stay out of haram relationships. If you feel the urge, if you feel the need to be with the opposite gender, then have a good relationship with your parents. Talk to them about it. Be open with them. Let them know you don't want to do anything haram, and pursue marriage. I would also caution before pursuing marriage to educate yourself about marriage. If you're a woman, educate yourself about both how to be a wife and what the responsibilities of the husband are. And if you're a man and then educate yourself on how to be a husband, how to be a father, and how what the responsibilities of a wife are. Take mentors. Ask a lot of married people. Take courses. Do research. And fill up on knowledge, because the reality is that marriage is an action of worship. And just as any other action of worship, it deserves research. It deserves study. It deserves knowledge. So that's what I would caution everyone to educate yourselves about that. Now, if you cannot get married, as Prophet Muhammad said, fast. It will protect you. It will help you to weaken your desires. And the reason why that is because the desire to have the opposite gender, to be in intercourse, is a desire like the desire of eating and drinking. When you're hungry, you have a desire to eat, you satiate yourself through eating. When you're thirsty, you have a desire to drink, you satiate yourself through drinking. When you have the desire and the urge for intercourse, you get married, you satiate the feeling, the passion. So since you're stopping your food and your drink from sunup to sundown for the sake of Allah, then it's a practice to help you to stop your urge or to control your urge to be with the opposite gender. It does indeed weaken the urge to be with the opposite gender. It does not erase it, of course, but it weakens it and it gives you more control over it. What can you do to also prevent yourself from falling into haram relationships? Stay off of social media. I don't understand. I don't get it. I'm a '90s baby. I didn't get a laptop till I was 20. So I didn't get a smartphone until I was probably 25. So, and I'm 30 now. So there you go. I didn't have the privilege that you all have with the internet, and your parents make sure they got internet and smartphones and laptops. And my mom still has difficulty using the computer to this day. So I'm a '90s baby. I didn't grow up with that stuff. But you all are growing up with it. But we did without it. So I'm sure you all can do without it. And we did have the telephone. You used to call people up and be on the phone in your 3-way, 4-way conference call, putting people on the phone. That was what people used to do. After school, you hear a guy talking about, so yeah, I was talking to these girls yesterday. We had fun, spending time talking on the phone. That's like the closest we had to what you all have today. So if you want to stay out of going to haram relationships, please stay off the social media. I don't even get the point, really. I don't get the point of social media. The point is to connect people, right? But people are more connected online than people are in person. So actually you become connected online, but you're distant from the people who are around you. And if that phone or connection makes you isolated in your room or get away from the people who are around you, then you're not. I mean, you're connecting with strangers at the detriment of disconnecting from your family. That's absurd. You're in a dark room by yourself with a screen in your face, and your mom and your dad is in the other room, and your brothers and your sisters are in the other room. You can't stand to spend 5 minutes with them, but you go online as you got this whole personality online, a whole life. People look up to you. They call you nicknames online. But if you don't even accept or respect the nickname that your parents gave you, if they call you with that nickname in front of your friends, you'll feel embarrassed. But you take the nickname that the strangers give you, and you feel like you're somebody online. So I still don't get the point of social media, honestly speaking. Yes, for ulama, for da'is, to get on there and give da'wah, maybe. But you just scrolling down, looking at people's feeds, what they ate, what they're wearing, their selfies, their ventures. He out there in the trees looking at landscapes, climbing mountains and stuff, and you over here looking at a phone watching him do it. I don't understand. Why don't you just go do the same thing? I mean, he doing better than you. You sitting here scratching your neck, eating M&Ms, and this dude is working out. So go work out. What's the point in what? I don't understand. I don't get. I'm sorry. I just don't get it. Because I don't do the social media. Alhamdulillah, here I'm doing some reminders here. I was asked to answer these questions. So I'm doing the best I can, but this is the end of it for me. Other than that, I don't have time to be on social media, honestly speaking. Alhamdulillah. So that's what leads to haram relationships. People too much on the social media stuff. And scrolling. They incorporated the scrolling to keep you on the phone. That's why you keep scrolling and then like and emojis. And why do people have to know how you feel about something? Why do people have to know what you ate, what time you went to sleep, and what time you brushed your teeth today? I just don't get it. People are so in need of so much attention that they cannot keep. And the endorphins that come from it, right? You make a post, and then you see that people liked it. You feel, oh man, they liked it. You know what I mean? You feel important. Poor child. Your parents didn't make you feel important enough. Your spouse doesn't make you feel important enough. Your children doesn't make you feel important enough. And you can put all of that aside. Your Quran doesn't make you feel important enough. Doesn't Allah speak to you in the Quran? Doesn't Allah address you in the Quran? Doesn't Allah encourage you and I to be righteous in the Quran, to be upright, to be sound? Is that not enough attention that Allah Azza wa Jal revealed to you a whole book? And then He commanded you and I to communicate with Him privately 5 times a day? That's not enough attention? I don't understand. I really don't. But may Allah Azza wa Jal help me understand. Number 3. If someone right now is in a haram relationship, how can they break free? Number 1. Have nadm, have remorse. Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam said, "An-nadm at-tawbah." Remorse is repentance. So in order for you to really be repentant, you have to feel bad. If you feel bad, but you're blaming somebody for your relationship, blaming somebody other than yourself, that's not full remorse. That's justification. No matter how you slice it, which way you slice it, if you feel bad, but you say, oh, if it wasn't for this, and if it wasn't for that's justification. Right? That's what Satan said to his Lord. Rabbi bima aghwaytani. My Lord, I'm going to say this because of how you misled me. I'm going to commit to what I'm about to say because of how you misled me. That's a justification. Allah didn't mislead him. Allah gave him instructions he failed to follow. So, unfortunately, people are in haram relationships and then they come and justify. Oh, because so-and-so said this, then I did that. Or because you made me feel, so I did this. And then, because they made me, or because you're blaming everybody but yourself. Blame yourself. You're the only one to blame. On the day of judgment, everyone knows this. On the day of judgment, Allah Jalla wa Ala said in the hadith Qudusi, فَمَنْ وَجَدَ خَيْرًا فَلْيَحْمَدِ اللَّهِ. Whoever finds good on the day of judgment, then he should praise Allah. She should praise Allah. وَمَنْ وَجَدَ غَيْرَ ذَلِكَ فَلَا يَلُومَنَّ إِلَّا نَفْسَهُ. And whoever finds other than good, then they have no one to blame but themselves. So that remorse and blaming someone doesn't mix. You can be the most remorseful person, but if you're blaming someone for your mistake, that is not true remorse. That is justification. You got to give it up and realize that you put yourself in that situation by your decision. And there's no one that forced you to do it. No one kept you up at night with haram relationships. No one reminded you of the haram relationship beside yourself and the one you were in a relationship with. And you kept it up. And no one forced you and no one cared. It was no one's business. So I don't understand the blaming issue. I mean, I do understand it psychologically. That's the problem. You become the victim. Now you're the victim of what everyone else did that caused you to do what you did, which is the victimization. It's very well known in psychology. When a criminal plays the victim, it shows many things. Number one, but I'll leave that for the books of psychology for you all to study and understand. When a person victimizes themselves, when they are the crime, they are the perpetrator. They have committed the crime, and they are the perpetrators of the crime that they commit. And how victimization plays a part in that. So how can you break free? As we said, an-nadam, remorse. Number 2, al-iqla' an al-dhanb. Stop. Al-azm ala adam al-i'adah. Have firm resolve never to return to such a sin. Break off of those friends. Get out of those groups. Anything that was associated with the sin that you committed, cut it loose. You don't need it. You're not going to need it when you die. You weren't born with it. So those friends, under 1,000 quotation marks, you weren't born with them. You were not in need of them to nurse. You were not in need of them to eat. You were not in need of them to sleep. You were not in need of them to speak. You were not in need of them to walk and what have you. You survived your whole life. Then you got into a rough patch in life with a group of friends that are not actually friends. You think they are, but they are of no benefit to you. They encourage you to do haram. When you do something haram, they encourage you. They back you up. They send you emojis and googly eyes and all of this stuff. They support you. Muslims, they say, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. Yeah, they're Muslims, I get it. But when you do haram, they encourage you. When you do haram, they don't say, brother, you shouldn't be doing that. Brother, what you posting that picture for? Brother, why are you taking a selfie with smoking a blunt? Or whatever you guys smoke these days, right? I mean, Allah knows what you guys smoke. My point is, brothers and sisters, that friend is not a friend. So, cut off those friends. Get out of those groups. Get off the social media. Delete it. Oh, you're going to die. You're going to die because you're not going to survive. Because your regular person is not enough. The regular you in reality is not enough. You got to have an online identity for you to survive, for you to feel better about yourself. Because your Quran is not enough, your Salah is not enough, your parents are not enough, your spouse is not enough, your children aren't enough, your siblings aren't enough. These are the people who are responsible. So you go ahead and go to these online identities for fulfilling your purposes of life. Feel fulfilled through the online existence. That doesn't make sense. So, iqla' an al-dhanb. Come away from it. Stop it. And if you have done wrong to anyone, return their wrong. Make up for what you broke. These are the 4 conditions of at-tawbah. This is how you break free. Through tawbah. So for repentance, there are 4 R's. Remorse, which is regret. Refrain, which is to stop. Resolve, which is to have firm resolve not to do it again. And repay. Repay whoever you messed up with. Make up for what you messed up. That's how you break away from haram relationships. And if that's not convincing enough for you, you and I should know that everything is being counted either for or against us, and we're going to die sooner than later. And when the angel of death is pulling our souls out, we will then flash to all of the things that we have done and committed in our lives. We will think about it at that moment, and we will have no way to return, and we will wish, if we only had one more moment, we'd spend that moment not on social media, but put our heads in the Quran, or putting food in our children's mouths, or hugging our parents, or perhaps in sujood, praying to Allah, or feeding a poor person, or what have you. We wish you were doing anything else beside that haram relationship. So if that's the case, then why don't we stop it now, inshallah. We are very capable. We are great human beings. And Allah Azza wa Jal has chosen us to say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, so we are able. Number 4, how should we interact with the opposite gender? There's a good book called Gender Relations in Islam. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's written by Sheikh Hatim al-Hajj. And look it up from the Rafas just to make sure. I thought I brought it here. Gender relationships in Islam, or male-female interactions in Islam. One of them, Hatim al-Hajj. So, how you deal with the opposite gender? Lower your gaze. وَقُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَغُضُّوا مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِمْ وَيَحْفَظُوا فُرُوجَهُمْ. Tell the believing men to restrain their gazes and protect their private parts. ذَلِكَ أَزْكَى لَهُمْ. That is purer for them. So, refrain your gaze. You have to speak to the opposite gender. Try not to look at them. If you have to look at them, to answer them or what have you, look and look away. Busy yourself with something. Look at a watch, look at a phone. Of course, you don't want to appear disrespectful, or especially if it's a person from a Western standpoint. They're going to see that your lack of eye contact is disrespect. They're going to see this. But explain to them, out of my bashfulness, out of my trying to be reserved and maintain your dignity as an individual, that's why I'm not looking at you. And things like that. You can talk, just like you can tell a waitress or a waiter at a restaurant the thing that you would like to eat, and you say that with confidence, then you can, do the verbal judo and communicate with the opposite gender as to why you're keeping yourself together, basically, and keeping yourself disciplined. So, opposite gender interaction definitely should not be. A guide to female and female. Interaction in Islam. This is what it looks like. Hatim al-Hajj. There you go. There it is. It's about $15. That is a really good, concise book on that issue. Alhamdulillah. And I'm sure there are many more like that. More books like that. Publications benefit from all of them, inshallah. But definitely not in people's DMs. Not communicating, not justifying communicating with a girl. Sometimes brothers are saying to me, well, how do I know I'm going to like this girl unless I communicate with her? Put the right foot forward first. That is, communicate with her father first. Well, maybe I might not like her. Well, I got to go and communicate and commit to her father, and then if I don't like her, then what I'm supposed to do? Well, you can back out. If you talk to her father and say, brother, I'm interested in your daughter, and you come to find out through communicating with her with the right means of supervision and what have you, you realize that you don't want to pursue her any further, or she realizes that she doesn't want to pursue you any further, you can back out. You can say, Jazakumullahu khairan, alhamdulillah. I hope that Allah Azza wa Jal gives you a good spouse, and so forth. And you can, do those things to back out of the situation. But unfortunately, brothers are going through the back door. They're justified. They say, well, I just want to get to know her first, and then after, for 1 year, I'll talk to her dad. That's putting the carriage before the horse. And it's haram. So, we definitely don't interact with the opposite gender through these DMs. But you can interact with the opposite gender on a need to be basis. For example, if you're at the masjid and there are sisters there, and there's a class, a general class, where the sisters sit on the back, or and the brothers sit in the front, or if there's a big hall where it has to be split in half, sisters on one side, but it's fine. When you walking through the halls, you keep your gaze lowered. You say "Salamu alaikum." You show respect. If there's food served, let the sisters eat first, and then the brothers eat, or the brothers eat first and the sisters eat, depending on the situation. Being respectful, calling people by their names, and so forth. Protecting the opposite gender as well. Prophet Allah Azza wa Jalla said, "Al-mu'minuna wal-mu'minatu ba'duhum awliya'u ba'd." The believing men and women are protectors for one another. They're protectors for one another. So if you see a sister in the supermarket, say "Salamu alaikum." Unless of course you fear some fitna. If you fear some, abnormal attraction to her or something like that. If you fear that, then you can refrain, as scholars have said. But if you feel that that's my sister, I want her to know I'm a Muslim, I want her to know that, hey, I'm looking out for her, or whatever, say "Salamu alaikum," make her feel comfortable. And of course, these things these general things are ways that you can interact with the opposite gender. Number 5. How should we as Muslims view free mixing with the opposite gender? Free mixing is haram. Free mixing with the opposite gender is haram. But you can have purposeful mixing. As I said, you're at the masjid, you're in university, you are feeding the poor together. It's okay for sisters to go and feed the poor and brothers to go and feed the poor, but just be mindful of each other. Don't be mixing and leaning on each other and hugging each other and high-fiving each other. And refrain your gaze and just be mindful of Allah Azza wa Jal. Free mixing, however, is haram in Islam. Number 6. Can free mixing lead to haram relationships? If yes, how? Yes, indeed. You all know the story of Barsisa. I shouldn't have to repeat that. Everybody knows the story of Barsisa. It does lead to haram relationships. He was a monk. He was He was a knowledgeable man, of the most knowledgeable of his town. He took care of a girl. One thing led to another. In the absence of her brothers, one thing led to another. He fornicated with her. She got pregnant. When he found out she got pregnant, he killed her and buried her. So he went from a scholar to a murderer because he free mixed. So you might say, "Oh, brother, come on. What type of example is that?" You know how people talk back. They always got something to say, right? They say, "Man, nobody going that far." Yeah, but he didn't think he was going to go that far either, right? He didn't think that. He would never even imagined that. But not only did he go that far, but before he was executed, he prostrated to Satan and became a disbeliever. So he definitely didn't think he was going to disbelieve, but all because he followed his desires. Don't free mix with the opposite gender. Get off of these groups where there are opposite genders, brothers and sisters on it. I don't trust these groups anymore. I used to trust these groups. I used to think that groups like that would be Muslims being mindful of Allah Azza wa Jal, and things like that. I just assumed that. I just thought well of Muslims. I really did. And then I come to a conclusion in my life now that no one should be free mixing on these social media. People shouldn't even have social media. That's my position. For what would you got it for? Okay, yes, if you have it to keep your family ties, that's fine. If you have a social media because you want to keep up with your family all over the world, and it's easier on a platform like that to keep up with 20 people on that platform like that, where you can see what they're doing, you see their children graduating, and you see them buying a new car or whatever, you see them in trouble and you get to help them, whereas it's hard to do that on regular text message or so. I understand for the purposes of keeping your family ties, but other than that, I really don't see much. Maybe scholars or da'is inviting to Islam. But if you all up in the gym getting buffed up and pumped up, and bro, some sister's gonna be looking at you, man. I mean, I don't, or what have you. I mean, I'm sure there are loopholes around it, but again, that's a lot of research you got to put in and a lot of investment you got to make into these social media, where if you were to put the same effort into learning Arabic, you would be a master by now. Most people would have mastered Arabic by now, if they put as much dedication into it as they put into social media. And they would have memorized the Quran multiple times over if they looked in it as much times as they looked on their phone and scrolled up and down watching people's feeds. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to keep us safe. And the how part, how does the free mixing lead to haram relationships, is the story of Barsisa. If you don't know it, look it up. So, and I'd have briefly summarized it for you. May Allah Azza wa Jalla protect us all. Are there any questions that we have from the live group? Or any questions from the floor? What if their true identity is the one that they display online? Someone asked, what if their true identity is the identity that they display online, and their false identity is the one that they have in person? I'm assuming that that's the case. If your true identity is online and your false identity is in person, you probably need some therapy. You do. Because you can only be yourself behind a screen. That means there's some self-esteem issues there. And there are a lot of other things that's going on that you need some therapy to figure out. Why do I feel comfortable to be me online, but I feel uncomfortable to be in person? It might be self-love is necessary in that case, because you need self-esteem. You lack self-esteem if you feel that, and your self-esteem is really something that's up to you. It's nothing someone can give you. You have to pursue your own self-esteem. And it might sound difficult, but the reality is you wake up alone, you go to sleep alone, meaning you are going to sleep. And you're going to die alone. You were born alone. So you got to really figure out how to get along with yourself. Honestly speaking, you have to. And I understand that many people hate themselves today. They look in the mirror, they can't stand what they see. I get it. But then you need therapy to figure that out. Don't go to say, well, since I do feel comfortable about being myself online, I'm going to continue to do that. Not if it's detrimental to you. Not if it destroys your family. Not if it destroys your reputation. Not if you're faking it. What you faking for? Why? What's the point of faking it online or faking it in person? I mean, I'm quite sure that the people who live around you would accept you for who you are. They're your family. I'm sure they would accept you. So why don't you try that? Oh no, I'm just gonna go online and be myself. So I'm gonna live literally split realities. Which of them are true? Who knows? The person knows, or people know. Who knows? So the true identity is the one they display online. As I said, they probably need therapy. And I'm not saying that to make fun of anyone here, but I'm just saying there's a reality. Seek therapy. Try some self-love. Try to build your self-esteem. Try to get along with yourself so that you're comfortable with expressing yourself to those who love you, not to strangers. Right? People are so comfortable expressing themselves to strangers, but they don't want to express themselves fully to those who love them. That's absurd. I mean, it's sad, I should say. I don't want to make it say absurd all the time, but it's a sad situation. May Allah Azza wa Jalla make it easy for us. Can I attend a mixed gender protest for the sake of social justice? Can I attend a mixed gender protest for the sake of social justice? I'm going to leave the answer of that for those who are elder than me. I don't want to get into politics. Honestly speaking, I don't go to mixed gender protests myself, so I'm going to leave that for those who are elder than myself. So please ask that to someone else. Any other questions?
Good question. It sounds like it's two questions in itself.
Well, I mean, those who are more privy and knowledgeable about political presence and the necessity of it and the benefits of it and the detriment of not being there, they'll be in a better position to answer that question.
Right.
Because they might give a concession It might not, or it might have more restrictions on it based on, but I'm not privy to that. I don't know much about politics, to be frank, and I don't know much about the different ways of social justice. I do believe in social justice, that justice should be established, and there are means to get there. I just don't know enough about it to give a verdict in that regard. Alhamdulillah, if there are no more questions, we will end this. وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. جزاكم الله خيرا.